The Silk Road's bloody end. In the shadowy corners of the internet lies a vast, uncharted territory known as the Dark Web, a place where anonymity reigns and where law enforcement can rarely tread. For a time, this digital underworld was ruled by one man, Ross Ulbricht, better known by his alias, Dread Pirate Roberts. Ulbricht's creation, the Silk Road, was an online marketplace unlike anything the world had seen. Its inventory read like a criminal's wish list, offering everything from drugs and counterfeit documents to hacking services and illegal weapons. What began as Ulbricht's libertarian dream of a free, unregulated marketplace quickly spiraled into something far more dangerous. And soon, blood would be spilled. In February 2011, Ross Ulbricht launched the Silk Road from the safety of his laptop. To the average person, the Silk Road was invisible. It could only be accessed via Tor, a browser that allowed users to navigate the dark web while concealing their IP addresses. Payments were made exclusively with Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency that guaranteed anonymity. Ulbricht, who studied physics and had a background in economics, was a staunch libertarian. He believed in the power of free markets and minimal government intervention. The Silk Road was his attempt to create a place where individuals could trade anything without interference, an economic utopia for those who shared his anti-establishment views. Within months, the Silk Road gained traction. Word spread through forums and chat rooms, and soon thousands of people were logging in to buy drugs, counterfeit IDs, and stolen credit card information. Ulbricht, under his pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts, became a revered figure among his users. He was the kingpin of this burgeoning empire, a man who preached freedom while making millions in commissions from illegal transactions. But as the Silk Road grew, so did its notoriety, and with it, the attention of law enforcement. For nearly 2 years, the FBI and Homeland Security worked in secret to bring down the Silk Road. The dark web marketplace was elusive, but not invincible. A small team of dedicated agents monitored transactions, infiltrated the site, and patiently waited for Ulbricht to make a mistake. Their breakthrough came in 2013 when Ulbricht slipped up. A programmer by trade, Ulbricht was meticulous about covering his tracks. But in an early forum post promoting the Silk Road, he had carelessly used his real name. That one mistake allowed law enforcement to link him to the site. By October 2013, the authorities had enough evidence to move in. But as they prepared to make the arrest, they uncovered something far more sinister than drug deals. Ulbricht had allegedly ordered the murder of several people. In the summer of 2013, Dread Pirate Roberts faced a problem. A former employee had stolen over $350,000 in Bitcoin from the Silk Road. Enraged and desperate, Ulbricht turned to a darker solution. He reached out to a hitman, offering to pay $150,000 to have the thief killed. What Ulbricht didn't know was that the hitman he hired was an undercover agent. Messages between Ulbricht and the supposed assassin were chilling. Ulbricht provided detailed instructions for the murder, including where the target lived and how to dispose of the body. "I'd like to put a bounty on his head," Ulbricht wrote coldly in one message. "I want to get him taken out." Though no actual murders were ever carried out, the intent was clear. Ulbricht had crossed a line from facilitating illegal transactions to ordering cold-blooded killings. It was no longer just a libertarian experiment, it was a criminal empire soaked in blood. On October 1, 2013, Ross Ulbricht sat in a San Francisco library, unaware that his time as Dread Pirate Roberts was about to end. He was using his laptop to manage the Silk Road when 2 FBI agents quietly approached. One agent grabbed the laptop before Ulbricht could close it, ensuring they captured all the incriminating data. Ulbricht was arrested on the spot, and the Silk Road went dark. News of Ulbricht's arrest sent shockwaves through the internet. To his supporters, he was a martyr, a man who had dared to challenge the system and paid the price. But to the authorities, he was a dangerous criminal, responsible for facilitating countless illegal activities and conspiring to commit murder. In 2015, Ulbricht was convicted on charges including conspiracy to commit money laundering, conspiracy to traffic narcotics, and conspiracy to commit computer hacking. The most damning charge, however, was the murder-for-hire plot. Though no one had been killed, the evidence of his intent was enough to secure a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The Silk Road's downfall was a victory for law enforcement, but it was only the beginning. Even after the site was shut down, new dark web marketplaces emerged, each more secretive and secure than the last. The dark web had tasted blood, and it was hungry for more. Today, Ross Ulbricht sits behind bars, his dream of a free, anonymous marketplace shattered. But the legacy of the Silk Road lives on, a chilling reminder of how the internet can become a playground for humanity's darkest desires. Despite his downfall, the dark web thrives, a hidden world where anonymity continues to breed unspeakable horrors. The Dark Web Cannibal. It's a story that sounds like the plot of a horror movie, but for the women targeted by Gilberto Valle, the nightmare was real. Valle, a former New York City police officer, led a double life that shocked both his colleagues and the world. By day, he was a uniformed protector of the public, patrolling the streets and ensuring the safety of New Yorkers. But by night, behind the anonymity of his computer screen, Valle was something else entirely. He was a predator, lurking in the darkest corners of the internet, exploring a world where cannibalism was not just discussed, but fantasized about in vivid, disturbing detail. It was only a matter of time before the truth came to light, and when it did, the revelations were as terrifying as they were gruesome. Gilberto Valle seemed like an ordinary man. A husband, a father, and a respected member of the New York Police Department, NYPD, Valle gave no obvious signs that beneath the surface, something sinister was brewing. But his marriage was strained, and the stress of balancing work and family life began to wear on him. It was during this time that Valle's darkest desires began to manifest, and the internet became his escape. Like many others, Valle turned to the dark web, a hidden part of the internet inaccessible through conventional browsers, to explore his most taboo fantasies. What he found there was a community of like-minded individuals, who, under the cloak of anonymity, shared their twisted cravings for flesh. Valle quickly became an active participant in cannibal-themed forums, where members fantasized about kidnapping, torturing, and consuming human beings. Valle didn't just talk about cannibalism. He meticulously planned it, down to the smallest detail. On his computer, the FBI later discovered files on dozens of women, some of whom he had known personally. Each file contained photos, personal information, and detailed notes on how he intended to abduct them. Valle's fascination wasn't just confined to abstract fantasies, he had real, tangible targets. One of the most disturbing discoveries was that Valle had discussed his fantasies in private messages with other users on these forums. In one conversation, he graphically described his desire to tie up a woman, cook her alive, and eat her. His detailed descriptions of how he planned to execute these acts were not the harmless musings of a bored mind, they were chillingly precise, outlining everything from kidnapping techniques to the exact temperature at which he'd roast his victims. One exchange, in particular, stood out to investigators. Valle had been chatting with another user who shared similar desires. In their conversations, they discussed kidnapping Valle's wife and a close female friend. Valle shared that he had already begun stalking these women, knowing their routines and the best times to strike. It was this level of detail that sent shivers down the spine of law enforcement when they finally caught wind of what Valle was up to. The first crack in Valle's double life came when his wife, Kathleen, discovered his dark secrets. One day, while using their shared computer, she accidentally stumbled upon his search history and read some of his conversations. Kathleen was horrified by what she found, detailed plans to kidnap her and other women. Terrified, she immediately took their infant daughter and fled to her mother's house, alerting the authorities to what she had uncovered. The FBI launched an investigation, and what they found was more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. Valle wasn't just fantasizing about cannibalism, he was creating an elaborate plan to act on those fantasies. Investigators found extensive evidence on his computer, including the shocking files on his female targets, disturbing chat logs, and search histories filled with gruesome topics like how to chloroform someone and how to slow cook a human. The case was clear to the FBI, Gilberto Valle wasn't just a man with dark fantasies. He was on the brink of committing real, horrific crimes. On October 25, 2012, Valle was arrested by the FBI. The media dubbed him the "Cannibal Cop," and the case quickly became a national sensation. Valle, once a protector of the law, was now its most shocking offender. The prosecution argued that Valle had crossed the line between fantasy and reality and that his detailed plans and preparations indicated a genuine intent to carry out his horrifying desires. The defense, however, had a different story. Valley's lawyers argued that everything their client had done was simply fantasy, a dark, twisted fantasy, yes, but one that he had no intention of ever acting on. They emphasized that none of the women had been harmed, and that Valley's interactions on the dark web were no different than someone enjoying violent horror films or writing fiction. But the prosecution pointed to the wealth of evidence found on Valley's computer as proof that he was not just indulging in fantasy. They highlighted the fact that Valle had conducted surveillance on his targets, created detailed abduction plans, and had even discussed with others the possibility of using specific tools and methods to carry out the murders. The trial was intense, with the defense calling upon experts in the field of psychology and online behavior to argue that Valley's actions were part of a community that shared dark fantasies but never intended to act on them. Meanwhile, the prosecution painted a picture of a man on the brink of a monstrous crime, only stopped by his wife's accidental discovery of his activities. In 2013, Valle was convicted of conspiracy to kidnap and was sentenced to life in prison. However, his case didn't end there. In 2014, a federal judge overturned the conviction, ruling that there was not enough evidence to prove that Valle ever intended to act on his fantasies. He was released from prison, though his life was forever changed. The Cannibal Cop case sparked national debate about the fine line between fantasy and reality. Can someone be convicted for crimes they fantasize about but never commit? What role does the dark web play in amplifying these desires? For many, the case was a chilling reminder of how the internet can provide a platform for even the darkest human impulses. Though Valle is now a free man, his story remains a terrifying example of the blurred lines between fantasy and intent. Hidden beneath the surface of the internet, the dark web continues to serve as a gathering place for the most unspeakable horrors, a place where anonymity can make even the darkest dreams feel dangerously real. The mysterious death of Elisa Lam. In the heart of downtown Los Angeles stands the Cecil Hotel, a building whose history is as eerie as it is tragic. Over the decades, the Cecil has been the setting for numerous suicides, murders, and other unsolved mysteries. But no story has captivated the world quite like that of Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old Canadian student whose death in 2013 remains shrouded in mystery. Lam's disappearance, the haunting elevator footage that captured her final moments, and the discovery of her body in the hotel's rooftop water tank have spawned countless conspiracy theories, leaving her death as one of the internet's most chilling unsolved cases. Elisa Lam arrived in Los Angeles in January 2013 as part of a solo trip across the West Coast. She had planned to explore several major cities, documenting her travels on social media along the way. For a few days, everything seemed normal. Elisa was active on her blog and frequently called home to update her family. But on January 31st, she failed to check out of her room at the Cecil Hotel. Her parents, worried after not hearing from her, reported her missing, and a search began. For the first 2 weeks, there were few leads. Elisa Lam had seemingly vanished into thin air. But then, on February 13th, the LAPD released a strange piece of evidence that would soon captivate the internet: surveillance footage of Elisa from one of the Cecil Hotel's elevators on the night of her disappearance. The footage was unsettling, to say the least. In the video, Elisa is seen entering the elevator and behaving erratically. She presses several buttons, but the elevator doors remain open, almost as if malfunctioning. She hides in the corner, peers cautiously out into the hallway, and steps in and out of the elevator multiple times. At one point, she stands in the doorway, making strange hand gestures, as if speaking to someone, or something, that cannot be seen. After a few more minutes of bizarre behavior, Elisa leaves the elevator, and the doors close behind her. It was the last time she was seen alive. The footage quickly went viral, sparking a wave of online speculation. Viewers around the world analyzed every frame, searching for clues to explain Elisa's behavior. Some believed she was being stalked or chased. Others thought the video was evidence of a paranormal encounter, especially given the Cecil Hotel's notorious history. But as strange as the video was, it was only the beginning of the mystery. As the investigation continued, hotel guests began complaining about issues with the water supply. The water pressure was low, and some reported that the water coming from the taps had a strange taste and an unusual color. On February 19th, hotel maintenance staff decided to investigate the water tanks on the roof of the building. What they found was horrifying. Floating inside one of the large tanks was the decomposing body of Elisa Lam. The discovery raised more questions than it answered. How had Elisa ended up in the water tank? The tanks were located on a restricted part of the roof, with heavy lids that were difficult to remove. Access to the roof was limited, and there were no clear signs of how Elisa could have gotten up there on her own. Furthermore, the water tank was tall and narrow, making it unlikely that she could have climbed in by herself without assistance. An autopsy was performed, but the results only deepened the mystery. There were no signs of physical trauma, no drugs or alcohol in her system that could explain her behavior in the elevator video, and no conclusive evidence of foul play. The official cause of death was ruled as accidental drowning, but to many, this explanation felt incomplete. With no clear answers from the investigation, the internet took over. Online forums, including Reddit and YouTube, became flooded with theories about Elisa Lam's death, ranging from the plausible to the outlandish. One of the most widely discussed theories involved Elisa's mental health. Elisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, and she had written about her struggles with mental illness on her blog. Some speculated that she may have experienced a manic episode that caused her to behave erratically and accidentally led to her death. But even this theory left many unanswered questions. How did she access the water tank? Why was the elevator malfunctioning? And why did she act so strangely in the video? Others were convinced that something more sinister had taken place. Some internet sleuths pointed to the eerie similarities between Elisa's death and the 2002 Japanese horror film Dark Water, in which a girl's body is found in a building's rooftop water tank. Could someone have been inspired by the movie to stage Elisa's death? Or was it all just a disturbing coincidence? A darker theory suggested that Elisa may have been the victim of foul play, perhaps at the hands of someone connected to the hotel. The Cecil had long been a magnet for crime and tragedy. Serial killers Richard Ramirez and Jack Unterweger had both stayed there, and the hotel had a reputation for attracting a seedy clientele. Could someone have followed Elisa and lured her to the roof, staging her death as an accident? Some even believed that the hotel itself was cursed. The Cecil had seen more than its fair share of mysterious deaths, suicides, and other tragic events. To believers in the paranormal, Elisa's strange behavior in the elevator video seemed like evidence of a supernatural encounter. Was she interacting with something unseen? Was the hotel's dark history somehow influencing her actions? Despite the flood of theories, no definitive explanation for Elisa Lam's death has ever been found. The LAPD ultimately closed the case, stating that there was no evidence of foul play. But for many, the official explanation left too many loose ends. The case of Elisa Lam continues to fascinate and haunt those who hear it. Her strange behavior in the elevator, the eerie connection to the Cecil Hotel's dark past, and the mystery of how she ended up in the water tank all contribute to an unsolved mystery that seems to resist closure. In the years since her death, Elisa's case has become a symbol of the internet's ability to turn tragedy into a global obsession. But beyond the conspiracy theories and speculation lies the story of a young woman whose life was cut tragically short. Whether her death was the result of mental illness, foul play, or something far more inexplicable, one thing remains certain: the mystery of Elisa Lam has left an indelible mark on the darkest corners of the internet. Daisy's Descent, the hunt for a dark web predator. In the underbelly of the internet, where anonymity reigns and illicit activities thrive, one name became synonymous with unimaginable horror: Peter Scully. His actions left a scar on law enforcement communities across the globe and revealed the extent of the dark web's capacity to shelter some of the most heinous criminals. The world first became aware of Scully through whispers of a video so disturbing that it was dismissed as an urban legend, a story that seemed too horrific to be true. But the video was real. And so was Peter Scully. Scully's crimes, uncovered during an international manhunt, sent shockwaves through law enforcement and the public alike. He became the face of a new kind of criminal, one who used the anonymity of the dark web to prey on vulnerable individuals in ways that left an indelible mark on those who sought justice. This is the story of how the global hunt for a dark web predator unfolded and changed the course of cybercrime investigations forever. The internet's dark web is a hidden network that cannot be accessed through regular browsers. Designed to protect anonymity, it has become a place where illegal markets, trafficking rings, and other nefarious activities flourish. It's here that Scully found a way to exploit human suffering for financial gain. Peter Scully, an Australian national, fled his home country in 2011, evading charges of financial fraud. He settled in the Philippines, where he began to establish himself as a key figure in the dark web's criminal underworld. His operation quickly grew in scope, taking advantage of the country's poverty to exploit individuals, selling illegal content to a hidden market of global buyers. Scully's empire thrived in the shadows, shielded by the layers of encryption and anonymity the dark web provided. But it wasn't long before law enforcement agencies around the world took notice. The rumors about his operation, particularly the production of disturbing content for a global audience, began to surface, prompting an international investigation. Law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, Australian Federal Police, AFP, and Interpol, began monitoring the dark web in search of leads. For years, Scully had remained out of reach, his network of clients and accomplices spread across different countries. But one crucial clue, a payment transaction that led investigators back to the Philippines, sparked the beginning of the end for Scully's reign. The National Bureau of Investigation, NBI, in the Philippines was soon involved, working with international counterparts to locate Scully's base of operations. What they uncovered was worse than they had anticipated. Scully had manipulated vulnerable individuals into working for him, and evidence pointed to a sophisticated criminal network trafficking in human exploitation. The physical evidence gathered during the operation was horrifying, and the impact it had on the investigators was undeniable. It was a race against time to prevent more harm, as law enforcement zeroed in on Scully and his accomplices. In February 2015, Peter Scully was arrested in the Philippines. Alongside him were several accomplices who had aided him in his criminal enterprise. The arrest marked a turning point in the fight against dark web crimes, and Scully was charged with a series of crimes that left the world reeling. His victims, the vast majority of whom came from disadvantaged backgrounds, were left scarred by their ordeal. What made Scully's crimes even more disturbing was the network of buyers he catered to, a global audience hidden in the shadows, paying for the exploitation of human lives through cryptocurrency transactions. The case against Scully extended beyond his own acts of cruelty. It also exposed the global demand for such materials, highlighting the chilling reality of what the dark web could offer. Scully's trial was watched closely by the world, as people struggled to come to terms with the scale of his crimes. In 2018, Scully was sentenced to life in prison, a punishment many believe to be too lenient given the devastation he caused. His trial also brought attention to the need for international cooperation in fighting dark web crime, as no single country could tackle the vast, interconnected network of criminals that operated anonymously online. The case also had a profound impact on the law enforcement officers who worked on it. Many of them were left traumatized by the disturbing material they had to sift through during the investigation. It became clear that fighting dark web crime was not only a technological challenge but a psychological one as well. The fall of Peter Scully marked a victory for law enforcement, but it also revealed the immense challenges they still faced. While Scully was behind bars, the infrastructure of the dark web remained intact, and others were quick to take advantage of the vacuum left by his arrest. The global demand for illicit materials, hidden away in encrypted networks, continues to present a major obstacle to justice. Scully's capture did, however, lead to significant changes in how authorities approached dark web crimes. International cooperation between law enforcement agencies was strengthened, and new technologies were developed to help investigators penetrate the layers of anonymity used by dark web criminals. But despite these advancements, the dark web remains a haven for those who seek to profit from human suffering. The case of Peter Scully and the crimes he committed will be remembered as one of the most disturbing chapters in the history of dark web investigations. It is a sobering reminder of the capacity for human cruelty, and of the lengths to which law enforcement must go to bring justice to those who hide in the shadows. The hunt for Peter Scully was a landmark case in the fight against dark web exploitation, revealing the extent of the criminal underworld that exists in the hidden corners of the internet. While Scully's arrest brought some justice to his victims, it also underscored the ongoing battle law enforcement faces in combating cybercrime. As authorities continue to adapt and evolve in their fight against dark web criminals, the legacy of Scully's case remains a chilling reminder of the depravity that can flourish in the digital age. The battle is far from over, but the case has proven that even in the deepest, darkest corners of the web, justice can still prevail. The horrors of the Blue Whale Challenge. In 2016, an alarming and deadly game emerged from the darkest corners of the internet, spreading like wildfire through social media platforms. Known as the Blue Whale Challenge, it began innocuously enough, with seemingly harmless tasks. But for those who participated, the game soon spiraled into something far more sinister, eventually culminating in tragedy. Teenagers, often battling feelings of isolation and depression, became targets for psychological manipulation, drawn into a deadly web of online coercion. By the end of the game, many young participants had taken their own lives, leaving behind a trail of grief and unanswered questions. The Blue Whale Challenge, first reported in Russia, has since been linked to dozens of deaths worldwide. Although much of the challenge's mythology has been clouded by media sensationalism, the chilling reality is that it preyed on the most vulnerable members of society, young people looking for a sense of connection or meaning. The Blue Whale Challenge is said to have originated on VKontakte, VK, a Russian social media platform, where it was reportedly started by a small group of users with malicious intent. According to initial reports, the challenge was run by anonymous curators who targeted emotionally fragile teens, persuading them to participate in a 50-day series of tasks. These tasks started small, often involving seemingly benign or slightly unsettling challenges like watching horror films or waking up at odd hours. However, as the challenge progressed, the tasks became increasingly darker and more dangerous. Participants were encouraged to engage in acts of self-harm, each task designed to push the boundaries of their physical and psychological endurance. As participants neared the end of the challenge, the final task was horrifyingly clear: to take their own lives. The name Blue Whale was allegedly inspired by the common belief that blue whales beach themselves to die, drawing a chilling parallel between these majestic creatures and the challenge's deadly conclusion. The first known victim of the Blue Whale Challenge was a 15-year-old girl from Russia, whose suicide in early 2016 was linked to her participation in the game. Soon after, reports of other similar deaths began to surface, both in Russia and in neighboring countries. The game's eerie pattern, 50 days of increasingly dangerous tasks followed by suicide, began to alarm parents, schools, and law enforcement. From Russia, the Blue Whale Challenge quickly spread to other parts of Europe, and soon after, it made its way to Asia, South America, and even the United States. Although some cases remain difficult to verify, the game's influence on vulnerable teens became undeniable. Each story followed a chillingly similar narrative: a teen, often suffering from depression or feelings of alienation, would engage in the challenge until it reached its final deadly task. In one case, a 16-year-old girl in Brazil was found dead after a series of cryptic messages she posted on social media suggested she had been participating in the Blue Whale Challenge. In India, the death of several teens in quick succession led to widespread panic, with parents fearing that their children could be secretly engaging in the game. The Blue Whale Challenge preyed on teenagers in a deeply disturbing way, using psychological manipulation to exploit their vulnerabilities. Experts believe that many of the teens who were drawn into the challenge were already struggling with mental health issues, making them more susceptible to the game's coercive tactics. The curators of the game used a combination of intimidation and emotional exploitation to maintain control over the participants, convincing them that there was no way out once they had begun. One of the most disturbing elements of the Blue Whale Challenge was the way in which curators would monitor and interact with participants. Teens who expressed doubts or hesitated to follow the instructions were reportedly threatened or blackmailed. Curators claimed to have personal information about the teens or their families, which they would use to coerce them into completing the tasks. The isolation that many teens felt, combined with the sense of belonging that the challenge offered, created a toxic psychological trap. By the time participants reached the later stages of the game, they were often so entangled in the manipulative web of the curators that they felt there was no escape. The final task, suicide, was presented as the only way to win the game. As the Blue Whale Challenge spread and more cases surfaced, law enforcement agencies around the world scrambled to respond. In Russia, Authorities launched an investigation into the game's origins, eventually arresting one of its alleged creators, a 21-year-old man named Philip Budikin. Budikin, who admitted to his role in creating the game, claimed that his goal was to cleanse society by pushing vulnerable individuals to suicide. He was convicted and sentenced to prison, but by then, the game had already taken on a life of its own. In other countries, law enforcement and mental health organizations issued warnings to parents and schools, urging them to be vigilant about their children's online activities. Social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, and VKontakte, began working to remove posts and groups that promoted the challenge, but the damage had already been done. The widespread panic surrounding the Blue Whale Challenge also led to a number of false reports, with some cases of teen suicides being wrongly attributed to the game. Nevertheless, the psychological impact of the game on vulnerable teens was very real, and it raised serious concerns about the role of social media in enabling such dangerous phenomena. The Blue Whale Challenge exposed the darker side of online communities and the power of psychological manipulation, but it also highlighted a deeper problem, the mental health crisis facing teenagers around the world. Experts pointed out that the teens who participated in the challenge were often already struggling with depression, anxiety, or other mental health issues. The challenge merely amplified their existing vulnerabilities. In the aftermath of the Blue Whale Challenge, mental health organizations have emphasized the importance of early intervention and open communication between parents, teachers, and teens. Educators have been encouraged to recognize the signs of emotional distress in students, while social media platforms have taken steps to flag content that promotes self-harm or suicide. Though the Blue Whale Challenge may have faded from the headlines, its legacy remains a stark reminder of how the internet can be used to exploit the most vulnerable members of society. The game's global reach and the psychological damage it inflicted on participants continue to haunt those who were affected by it. In the years since the Blue Whale Challenge first surfaced, authorities have worked to better understand how such dangerous trends can spread online and to implement measures that prevent them from taking root. However, the case also serves as a warning of how the anonymity and reach of the internet can be weaponized in ways that are difficult to anticipate. As the internet continues to evolve, so too must the efforts to protect young people from the dangers that lurk online. The Blue Whale Challenge may be over, but the fight to prevent the next digital threat is far from finished. The Reddit Hitman Case. In the vast expanse of the internet, anonymity can feel like a protective shield. It allows people to speak their minds, share ideas, and sometimes, plot murder. This was the case in 2018 when an anonymous Reddit user sought to hire a hitman to kill his ex-wife. What began as a cryptic post in an obscure subreddit soon spiraled into a chilling murder-for-hire plot that shocked not only the Reddit community but law enforcement agencies across the country. The idea of hiring a hitman online has long been associated with the dark web, a place where illegal goods and services are said to be exchanged in the shadows, far from the reach of law enforcement. But this time, the request didn't come from the depths of the dark web. It came from Reddit, a mainstream platform with millions of users, where someone believed they could anonymously arrange a cold-blooded killing. The story began with a man named Jason W., who was embroiled in a contentious divorce with his ex-wife, Sarah. The separation had turned ugly, with bitter custody battles over their children and a financial dispute that left Jason feeling trapped and vengeful. Overwhelmed by his emotions and desperate for a way out, Jason came up with a plan, one that would rid him of his ex-wife for good. Unable to handle the stress of his personal life, Jason turned to the internet for a solution. He had heard stories about the dark web and the kinds of services one could buy there, including hiring a hitman. But instead of navigating the labyrinthine depths of the dark web, Jason made a fateful decision: he would look for help on Reddit. On an obscure subreddit that specialized in discussing illegal activities, Jason posted a chilling message. It was simple and direct, leaving little room for misinterpretation. He wanted someone to kill his ex-wife, and he was willing to pay. The anonymous nature of Reddit emboldened him, and he believed he could arrange the entire crime without ever revealing his identity. Jason's Reddit post read like something out of a crime thriller. Under the guise of a generic username, he asked if anyone knew how he could solve a problem discreetly. He didn't mention murder outright, but the implications were clear to anyone reading. He wanted a permanent solution to the problem of his ex-wife. His post quickly garnered attention, some users thought it was a joke, others responded with morbid curiosity, and a few warned him that he was stepping into dangerous territory. What Jason didn't know was that his post had caught the attention of more than just the average Reddit user. Law enforcement, particularly the FBI, had been monitoring forums like this for precisely these kinds of criminal activities. Reddit may be a popular social media platform, but it wasn't immune to the watchful eyes of investigators looking for signs of illegal behavior. Jason's post was about to bring him under the scrutiny of federal agents. Within hours of Jason's post going live, the FBI was alerted. The agents recognized the seriousness of the request and quickly set up an undercover operation. One agent, posing as a potential hitman, responded to Jason's post through private messages. Their conversation began innocuously enough, with the agent pretending to offer his services and asking what exactly Jason needed. The interaction that followed was chilling. Jason explained that his ex-wife was causing him endless grief through the divorce proceedings and that he was losing everything: his money, his children, and his peace of mind. In a cold and calculated manner, he laid out his plan. He wanted her taken care of and offered $10,000 for the job. The agent, playing the role of the hitman, pressed for details. How should the murder be carried out? Did Jason have a preferred method? Jason's responses were both specific and detached. He didn't care how it was done, he said, as long as it looked like an accident. Perhaps a staged car crash or something that wouldn't raise suspicion. He didn't want any blowback. The FBI continued to correspond with Jason, carefully gathering enough evidence to move forward with an arrest. Over the next few weeks, Jason provided more details about his ex-wife's routine, her place of work, and when she was most vulnerable. Each message Jason sent further sealed his fate, as the FBI documented every word. The operation came to a head when Jason agreed to meet with the hitman to finalize the details and make a down payment. Unaware that he had been communicating with federal agents, Jason arrived at a pre-arranged location, expecting to meet the man who would rid him of his ex-wife. Instead, he was greeted by a team of FBI agents who swiftly arrested him on charges of conspiracy to commit murder. The evidence against Jason was overwhelming. His digital footprint, the private messages exchanged with the undercover agent, and his willingness to provide payment all painted a damning picture. Jason's attempt to remain anonymous on Reddit had failed, and the FBI had all the proof they needed to bring him to justice. News of Jason's arrest shocked the Reddit community. Many users were horrified that a murder-for-hire plot had unfolded on a platform they use daily. Reddit's administrators quickly took down the subreddit where the plot had originated and issued a statement condemning the use of their platform for criminal activities. They vowed to work more closely with law enforcement to prevent similar incidents in the future. Jason's case also sparked a broader conversation about the dark side of anonymity on the internet. While Reddit is often seen as a platform for open dialogue and free speech, it became clear that its anonymity could also be exploited by those with malicious intent. Law enforcement agencies warn that while the internet offers a sense of protection, no one is truly invisible online. In the end, Jason was convicted and sentenced to prison for his role in the plot. His ex-wife, Sarah, was shaken but unharmed, grateful that law enforcement had intervened before the plan could be carried out. The Reddit Hitman case is a chilling reminder of how easily the internet can become a tool for those with dark intentions. While most users visit platforms like Reddit for harmless conversations or entertainment, there are always those who seek to exploit the anonymity the internet provides for nefarious purposes. Jason W.'s case illustrates how quickly an ordinary person can be driven to commit horrific acts when fueled by desperation and the belief that they are untouchable online. For law enforcement, this case was a victory, a testament to their ability to track down criminals even in the anonymity of cyberspace. But it also served as a sobering reminder of the dangers that lurk in plain sight on the internet, and the need for constant vigilance in the digital age. The Deep Web's Red Room Myth. In the vast and hidden expanse of the dark web, there is a rumor that has persisted for years, a story so chilling that it seems like something out of a horror movie. It is the legend of the Red Room, a place where unspeakable horrors are said to unfold in real time, live-streamed for a paying audience. According to this urban legend, anonymous users on the dark web can pay to watch live torture, murder, and abuse, all from the comfort of their own homes. The story of the Red Room has haunted internet forums and fueled countless conspiracy theories, leading many to wonder, is there any truth behind this terrifying tale? Despite years of speculation and sensational headlines, no verifiable evidence has ever been found to prove that Red Rooms are real. Yet, the myth persists, driven by the anonymity of the dark web and the innate human fascination with the macabre. This is the story of how the legend of Red Rooms came to be, why it continues to thrive, and whether it is truly fact or just another internet fiction. The concept of the Red Room likely has its roots in the early days of the internet, long before the dark web became a popular topic of discussion. Stories of secret websites where terrible crimes were broadcast for the amusement of others have been circulating since the rise of online chat rooms and forums in the 1990s. These early tales often involved vague descriptions of hidden websites, accessed through obscure links and protected by layers of encryption. As the internet evolved, so did the myth, adapting to fit the growing fear of the dark web. The dark web, unlike the surface web that most of us use, is a part of the internet that can only be accessed using special software, such as Tor. It is a place where anonymity is the primary currency, and because of this, it has gained a reputation for harboring illegal activity. Drug markets, weapon sales, and stolen data have all been found on the dark web, but it's the rumor of something even darker, a place where human lives are sold for entertainment, that has captured the public's imagination. The term Red Room itself is believed to have originated from Japanese horror fiction. In some versions, it refers to a pop-up ad or web page that asks users, "Do you like the Red Room?" and if they answer, yes, they are met with deadly consequences. As the dark web gained more attention in the mid-2010s, this fictional concept merged with real-life fears about what could be lurking in the hidden corners of the internet. For years, people have claimed to have stumbled upon Red Rooms in the dark web, but every time these claims have been investigated, they have turned out to be hoaxes. Many of the so-called Red Rooms are nothing more than scams, websites that promise live-streamed horrors in exchange for cryptocurrency, only for the user to discover that the promised content doesn't exist. In 2015, a video appeared on the dark web purporting to be a live torture session from a Red Room. It was shared widely across underground forums, and rumors began to circulate that someone had paid to watch the brutalization of an innocent victim. However, investigators quickly discovered that the video was not live-streamed but pre-recorded, and it had been heavily edited to give the illusion of real-time events. It was a performance, albeit a disturbing one, staged to capitalize on the growing fear of Red Rooms. This was not an isolated incident. Time and again, supposed Red Rooms have been exposed as hoaxes or scams designed to exploit the morbid curiosity of dark web users. Despite this, the belief in Red Rooms has persisted, fueled by anonymous testimonials and sensationalized media coverage. Law enforcement agencies across the globe have repeatedly stated that while the dark web is home to many illegal activities, they have found no credible evidence to support the existence of Red Rooms. The FBI, Interpol, and cybersecurity experts have all investigated the phenomenon and concluded that the claims are largely fictional. While it is true that the dark web has been used for horrifying purposes, including human trafficking, illegal pornography, and illicit drug sales, there has been no definitive proof that live-streamed torture or murder-for-hire broadcasts have ever taken place. Some experts believe that the idea of Red Rooms is a modern-day urban legend, akin to the snuff film myths of the 1970s, where people believed there were secret films depicting real murders for the enjoyment of viewers. In both cases, the fear is more powerful than the reality. Several high-profile hoaxes have played a role in keeping the myth of Red Rooms alive. One of the most infamous cases occurred in 2017, when a Reddit user claimed to have found a Red Room while exploring the dark web. The user posted a detailed description of the site, claiming to have witnessed live torture and even provided screenshots as proof. The post went viral, with thousands of Reddit users reacting in shock and horror. However, upon further investigation, it was revealed that the entire story was fabricated. The screenshots were doctored, and the user admitted to making the whole thing up as part of an elaborate online prank. Despite the admission, the story spread to other platforms, cementing the idea that Red Rooms could be real in the minds of many. Similarly, videos and images that have been circulated as evidence of Red Rooms have often turned out to be footage from unrelated sources, staged horror films, fake live streams, or videos of consensual extreme performances. The internet's appetite for shocking content has made it easy for such hoaxes to take on a life of their own. One of the reasons the Red Room myth endures is its psychological appeal. The idea that there are hidden corners of the internet where the worst of humanity can be viewed live taps into deep-seated fears about the unknown and the uncontrollable nature of the digital world. As more of our lives move online, the potential for anonymity makes us feel both empowered and vulnerable, creating a fertile environment for myths like Red Rooms to thrive. The anonymity of the dark web adds to this fear. It's a place where people can interact without revealing their true identities, and this can give rise to a belief that anything, no matter how horrific, is possible. The very existence of the dark web makes us wonder, if such a place exists, what kinds of evil might it be hiding? In the end, the truth about Red Rooms seems to be that they are more fiction than fact. Despite years of rumors, no verifiable evidence has emerged to prove that such sites exist. Law enforcement has repeatedly stated that while the dark web is home to many illegal activities, live stream torture and murder are not among them. However, the fear of Red Rooms persists, driven by our innate curiosity about the dark side of the internet and the anonymity it provides. As long as the dark web exists, the myth of Red Rooms will likely continue to haunt the imaginations of those who dare to venture into its hidden depths. Whether or not they are real, Red Rooms have become a symbol of the worst fears we hold about the digital age, the idea that somewhere out there, behind an anonymous screen, the darkest parts of human nature are being put on display for profit and pleasure. The Lake City Quiet Pills Mystery. It began, like many strange internet stories, with the death of a user on 4chan. In July 2009, a well-known figure in the online community, going by the username Religion of Peace, passed away. While that in itself wasn't particularly unusual, what came next would spark one of the most enduring internet mysteries, one that continues to puzzle sleuths, conspiracy theorists, and cybersecurity experts to this day. The mystery centers around a cryptic online entity known as Lake City Quiet Pills, a phrase that would become synonymous with the idea of a secret organization, possibly linked to real-world assassinations. For years, internet users have debated whether this was the work of a highly sophisticated hoaxer or the digital breadcrumbs left behind by a shadowy group of contract killers. Despite endless speculation and investigation, no one has been able to definitively say what the truth behind Lake City Quiet Pills really is. The story begins with a post on 4chan by a user named 2-6, who announced the death of his friend, Milo, also known as Religion of Peace online. According to 2-6, Milo had lived a long life, having served in the military during World War II, and had passed away at the age of 79. In his post, 2-6 described Milo as a man who gave out quiet pills to put people down who needed it, a cryptic phrase that would later become key to unraveling the mystery. For most users on 4chan, the death announcement was just another post in the chaotic stream of the website's infamous /b/board. But for a few, the mention of quiet pills stood out. It sounded like a euphemism, one that hinted at something darker than a peaceful death. This phrase led curious internet sleuths down a rabbit hole that would uncover one of the strangest mysteries ever to emerge from 4chan. Shortly after Milo's death, users began to dig into his online presence. One of the discoveries that raised eyebrows was the fact that Milo had owned a website called LakeCityQuietPills.com. At first glance, the site appeared to be nothing more than a simple image hosting platform, used to share random pictures. But soon, users began to notice something strange about the site's source code. There were hidden messages embedded within it. When internet sleuths examined the HTML of the website, they found a series of odd, cryptic messages. These messages, written in plain text but concealed within the code, seemed to be instructions or announcements. They included phrases like, "We have a new contract for immediate travel. 8 to 10 week assignment," and, "Old guys are still good shooters, need to make room for new ones." The language of these hidden messages sounded suspiciously like the workings of a covert military operation or mercenary group. The more users uncovered, the more they speculated that Lake City Quiet Pills was a front for something much more sinister, an underground network of assassins for hire. The website, they theorized, was being used to communicate job offers and assignments to hired killers. As users continued to investigate, the messages found on LakeCityQuietPills.com began to align with real-world events, adding weight to the theory that this was more than just a clever internet prank. In particular, one series of messages referred to a large operation taking place in the Middle East, with cryptic phrases like, "Party favors are ready," and "High priority." What made these messages even more chilling was that around the same time, a high-profile assassination occurred, the killing of Hamas military commander Mahmoud al-Mabhouh in Dubai in January 2010. The details of the operation, carried out by suspected Israeli Mossad agents, seemed to mirror the kind of hit described in the hidden messages on Lake City quiet pills. The hit team had used fake passports, surveillance, and coordinated movements, all tactics that seemed to line up with the cryptic job descriptions found in the website's code. For many internet sleuths, this connection was too close to ignore. Had they stumbled upon evidence of a real-life assassination group operating on the dark web, using an innocuous-sounding website to communicate with mercenaries around the world? As the investigation into Lake City quiet pills gained traction, the trail suddenly went cold. In 2010, after news of the mystery spread beyond 4chan and Reddit, the website was taken down without explanation. The cryptic messages stopped, and no new information emerged. To some, this was further proof that Lake City quiet pills was connected to something dangerous, and the group had gone dark after their activities came to light. But not everyone was convinced that Lake City quiet pills was the cover for a covert assassination network. Some argued that the entire mystery was an elaborate hoax, orchestrated by a clever troll who knew how to manipulate online curiosity. After all, the anonymity of 4chan and Reddit made it easy for someone to fabricate a backstory, plant cryptic messages, and watch as the internet unraveled the web of clues. Could it have been nothing more than an intricate puzzle designed to send amateur detectives on a wild goose chase? More than a decade later, the mystery of Lake City quiet pills continues to captivate internet users. Some believe that the group behind the cryptic messages was a real network of assassins, perhaps even connected to high-profile international incidents. Others argue that the entire thing was a hoax, a carefully constructed story meant to play on the internet's fascination with secret societies and shadowy organizations. There are even those who believe that the truth lies somewhere in between, that Lake City quiet pills was a real group, but perhaps not as nefarious as some have suggested. Maybe it was a network of military veterans or private security contractors exchanging job offers in a private, coded forum. While these jobs might have involved dangerous missions, the group was not necessarily carrying out assassinations. In the end, the truth behind Lake City quiet pills remains elusive. The website is long gone, the cryptic messages have stopped, and the people behind the mystery have disappeared into the ether. What began as a death announcement on 4chan has since become one of the internet's most enduring enigmas, a story that continues to inspire speculation and intrigue. The Lake City quiet pills mystery is a testament to the internet's ability to create legends. Whether it was a real assassination group, a clever hoax, or something else entirely, the story has taken on a life of its own. It has become a modern-day mystery that captures the imagination of those who seek to uncover the hidden truths lurking beneath the surface of the web. In an era where anonymity reigns, and cryptic communication is commonplace, the Lake City quiet pills case represents the ultimate internet enigma. It is a story of conspiracy, code, and the fear that something sinister may be operating just out of sight, hidden in plain view behind a simple website. The dark side of Craigslist. The internet has transformed the way people interact, shop, and even find jobs. One of the most prominent platforms for these exchanges is Craigslist, a website that allows users to post classified ads for anything from furniture and housing to job offers. For millions of people, Craigslist is a convenient and useful tool. But behind the facade of harmless listings lies a darker side, one that has led to theft, assault, and, in some chilling cases, murder. The anonymity of Craigslist allows users to remain largely hidden, making it an ideal hunting ground for those with malicious intent. Over the years, numerous crimes have been linked to the platform, with unsuspecting victims lured into dangerous situations by predators posing as legitimate buyers or sellers. But no case captured the public's attention more than the horrifying story of Timothy Kern, a man who was killed after responding to a Craigslist ad for a job that never existed. Craigslist, founded in 1995, revolutionized the way people buy and sell goods, find housing, and even secure employment. With its simple interface and free-to-use model, it quickly became one of the most popular online classifieds platforms in the world. Millions of transactions take place on Craigslist every year, and for most users, it works exactly as intended. But the very features that make Craigslist appealing, its ease of use and the ability to post and respond anonymously, also make it a breeding ground for criminal activity. Over the years, Craigslist has been linked to various crimes, including robbery, assault, and scams. The platform has implemented safety tips and warnings, but its open, user-driven nature leaves it vulnerable to exploitation. In November 2011, Timothy Kern, a 47-year-old man from Ohio, learned just how dangerous Craigslist could be when he answered a seemingly innocent job posting that would lead to his untimely death. Timothy Kern had been down on his luck. He was unemployed and searching for a new opportunity to support his family. Like many people in similar situations, Kern turned to Craigslist in hopes of finding a job. It wasn't long before he came across an ad that seemed too good to pass up, a caretaking position on a sprawling farm in rural Ohio. The ad promised good pay, free housing, and a fresh start, a dream scenario for someone looking to rebuild their life. The ad, placed by a man named Richard Beasley, described an idyllic life caring for an expansive property. Beasley, posing as the owner, claimed he needed help maintaining the land and keeping things in order. Kern saw this as a chance to turn his life around. After exchanging emails and phone calls with Beasley, he decided to take the leap. But what Kern didn't know was that Beasley had no intention of offering him a job. In fact, Beasley wasn't a farm owner at all, he was a convicted felon with a disturbing plan to lure victims to their deaths. Beasley wasn't acting alone. He had an accomplice, a teenager named Brogan Rafferty, whom he had groomed to help carry out his twisted plot. Together, they posted fake job ads on Craigslist, targeting vulnerable individuals desperate for work. Once the victims arrived at the remote location for the interview, Beasley and Rafferty would ambush them, killing them and burying their bodies in shallow graves. When Timothy Kern arrived at the meeting spot in rural Ohio, he had no idea that he was walking into a trap. Beasley and Rafferty had carefully planned the ambush, just as they had done with other victims. As Kern got out of his car and prepared to meet his new employer, Beasley led him deep into the woods under the guise of showing him the property. Then, without warning, Beasley drew a gun and shot Kern. The attack was swift and brutal, leaving Kern no chance to defend himself. After killing him, Beasley and Rafferty buried Kern's body in the woods, hoping no one would ever find it. Timothy Kern was not the only victim of the Craigslist killers. Two other men, David Pauly and Ralph Geiger, had also responded to similar job ads and met the same tragic fate. All three men were lured by the promise of steady work, only to be brutally murdered by a man they had never met. It didn't take long for law enforcement to connect the dots. The disappearance of multiple men who had all responded to the same Craigslist ad raised red flags, and investigators began piecing together the chilling puzzle. When one of Beasley's intended victims managed to escape an ambush and alert the authorities, police quickly closed in on the killers. The survivor, Scott Davis, had narrowly escaped with his life after being shot in the arm during an attempted murder. He had responded to the same Craigslist job ad and had traveled to meet Beasley under the same false pretense. But when Beasley attempted to shoot him, Davis managed to flee into the woods, eventually reaching safety and contacting the police. His testimony led investigators to the remote location where Kern, Pauly, and Geiger had been buried. Richard Beasley and Brogan Rafferty were arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder. The investigation revealed a disturbing pattern. Beasley had targeted vulnerable men, often older or unemployed, who were likely to trust the promise of a legitimate job. His plan was simple: lure the victims to a secluded location, kill them, and steal their belongings. It was a chilling reminder of how easily trust could be exploited on the internet. The Craigslist killings sent shockwaves through the online community. While Craigslist had been linked to crimes in the past, this was a new level of horror. The idea that a person could respond to a job posting, something millions of people do every day, and end up murdered was deeply unsettling. It raised serious questions about the safety of online platforms and the risks of meeting strangers in real life. Beasley was eventually convicted of the murders and sentenced to death. His accomplice, Brogan Rafferty, who was only 16 years old at the time of the killings, was sentenced to life in prison without parole. For the families of the victims, justice was served, but the scars of the tragedy remain. The Craigslist killings highlighted the darker side of the internet, how anonymity can be used to prey on the vulnerable and unsuspecting. While Craigslist implemented additional safety measures in the aftermath of the murders, the case serves as a stark reminder of the potential dangers of meeting strangers through online platforms. Today, Craigslist and other online classified sites continue to operate, and for the most part, transactions occur without incident. But the legacy of Timothy Kern and the other victims serves as a cautionary tale. Users are encouraged to take precautions, meet in public places, and always inform friends or family before meeting someone through an online ad. The internet has opened up incredible opportunities, but it has also created new risks. For those who fall prey to predators like Richard Beasley, the consequences can be deadly. The Craigslist killings are a haunting reminder that, even in the digital age, trust must be earned, not freely given. The Cicada 3301 puzzle. In January 2012, a strange image appeared on 4chan's infamous /x/paranormal board. The image was simple, just a black background with white text that read, "Hello. We are looking for highly intelligent individuals. To find them, we have devised a test. There is a message hidden in this image. Find it, and it will lead you on the road to finding us. We look forward to meeting the few that will make it all the way through. Good luck." 3301. Thus began the mystery of Cicada 3301, an enigmatic and cryptic series of puzzles that has captivated the internet for years. What followed was a global hunt involving some of the most brilliant minds in cryptography, coding, and internet sleuthing. The puzzles led participants across the web, through layers of cryptographic challenges, and even to physical locations around the world. But despite the countless hours spent trying to solve the mystery, no one has ever definitively uncovered who, or what, was behind Cicada 3301. Was it a secret recruitment tool for an intelligence agency, a hidden order, or an elaborate hoax? To this day, the answer remains unknown, leaving Cicada 3301 as one of the internet's greatest unsolved mysteries. The first Cicada 3301 puzzle dropped with no warning. The image posted on 4chan intrigued many, but only a few noticed the hidden clue embedded in the image's digital signature. Using steganography, a technique of hiding information within images or files, users uncovered a URL that led to the next part of the puzzle. This was just the beginning of a complex series of riddles and challenges that would take participants deep into the world of cryptography, ancient texts, and obscure references. As the puzzles progressed, it became clear that Cicada 3301 wasn't just another internet riddle. The complexity of the tasks increased, requiring solvers to decode cipher texts, manipulate digital files, and crack advanced encryption algorithms. The puzzles drew on a wide range of disciplines, including classical cryptography, steganography, mathematics, literature, philosophy, and cybersecurity. What made the Cicada 3301 mystery even more compelling was its global nature. At one point, clues led participants to physical locations, where QR codes were posted in various cities around the world, including Warsaw, Paris, Seoul, and Sydney. The fact that the game crossed from the digital world into the physical world hinted that whoever was behind it had considerable resources and reach. As the first wave of solvers worked through the puzzles, they uncovered more and more cryptic references that seemed to point to something greater than a simple internet game. Cicada 3301 incorporated quotes from ancient texts like the Book of Law by Aleister Crowley and works by William Blake, as well as obscure references to numerology in Kabbalah. The sheer depth and variety of the puzzles led many to believe that the creators were more than just pranksters, they were well-read, organized, and possibly working for a larger purpose. As the puzzle gained attention, theories began to surface about who or what Cicada 3301 really was. Some believed it was a recruitment tool for a government intelligence agency, like the CIA or MI6. After all, the kind of cryptographic expertise needed to solve these puzzles would be highly valuable to any intelligence service. Others thought it might be a secret society or think tank searching for brilliant minds to join their ranks. Still, others speculated that Cicada 3301 was tied to the cypherpunk movement, a community of activists who advocate for strong cryptography and privacy in the digital age. The puzzle's emphasis on cryptographic challenges and anonymity aligned with the ideals of those seeking to protect privacy from government surveillance and corporate data collection. But the most outlandish theories suggested something even more fantastic, that Cicada 3301 was a group of extraterrestrial beings or an artificial intelligence testing humanity's intellectual limits. After weeks of effort, a small number of participants claimed to have solved the first Cicada 3301 puzzle. Those who made it to the end were reportedly invited to a private forum, where they were asked to prove their dedication to the ideals of privacy, freedom, and nonconformity. However, the details of what happened next are murky, as those who solved the puzzle were sworn to secrecy. For most people, the trail ended there. But the story didn't stop. In 2013, exactly 1 year after the first puzzle was posted, another image appeared on 4chan, bearing the same signature, Cicada 3301. A second wave of puzzles began, again challenging participants to push their cryptographic skills to the limit. This time, the puzzles were even more complex, involving references to ancient Mayan numerology, obscure poetry, and cryptic images that seemed designed to confuse and mislead. A third puzzle appeared in 2014, but after that, Cicada 3301 went silent. Despite the ongoing interest and attempts to revive the mystery, no new puzzles have surfaced since. Some believe the group accomplished its goal, whatever that may have been, and quietly disappeared. Others think Cicada 3301 is waiting for the right moment to return with an even more challenging test. To this day, the true purpose of Cicada 3301 remains a mystery. Those who successfully completed the puzzles never publicly revealed their identities or the organization's goals. Theories continue to swirl about whether Cicada 3301 was an elaborate prank, a recruitment tool for a government agency, or something even more sinister. Some believe that the puzzle was simply an intellectual challenge designed to push the boundaries of cryptography and puzzle solving. The inclusion of philosophical and literary references suggests that the creators were interested in more than just technical ability, they were looking for individuals who could think critically and creatively. Others point to the possibility that Cicada 3301 was testing the Internet's capacity for collaboration. Throughout the puzzle-solving process, participants from around the world shared information and worked together, often across language and cultural barriers. In this sense, Cicada 3301 may have been an experiment in collective intelligence, seeing how far a decentralized network of solvers could go when united by a common goal. While the Cicada 3301 mystery remains unsolved, its legacy lives on. The puzzle has inspired numerous imitators and spin-offs, with amateur cryptographers creating their own online riddles in an attempt to replicate the success of the original. But none have matched the depth and complexity of the Cicada puzzles, nor have they sparked the same level of intrigue and speculation. Cicada 3301 is now regarded as one of the Internet's greatest enigmas, a digital doppelganger that seems to mirror humanity's own search for meaning in a complex, interconnected world. Whether it was an intelligence test, a recruitment tool, or simply an elaborate prank, it continues to captivate those who stumble upon its cryptic clues. For those still searching for answers, the puzzle is far from over. As long as Cicada 3301 remains unsolved, it will serve as a reminder of the Internet's capacity for mystery, collaboration, and the thrill of uncovering hidden truths.